All right, news. I don't know if I'm always going to be able to find a specific source for these episodes. Thus far, I've been able to, except for the riots one, but that was intentional. But the thing is, I have found the thing is about these episodes is that they generally apply to either all of one side or all of the arguments about an issue. I'll try and find a good, intelligent source, though, so that I can argue against, for, or with it. In this case, the source I'm using is... and the reason I'll tell you the source, but the reason I don't put it in the description is only half laziness. The other half is because, really, if you want to look up this issue, you really should find your own sources on it. I can tell you where I found my arguments for this, but really you should find your own sources. Go to the sources you trust. It's exactly what I did. There's probably 1,000 sources I ignored just because they're not people I've heard of before, or if not specifically for that reason, at least that they're not people who, well, they're just videos I haven't seen. In this case, in case you couldn't tell from the title, I pretty much just put in, for a solid source, when I decided to make this video, I just put into the YouTube search bar Adblock and looked for what came up. I actually found an argument from someone I trust, if not politically, socially, certainly, Hank Green, who on his Hanks channel, Hanks, I don't know if there's alternate spellings of Hanks, but I know there is. I know, but I don't know if they're still pronounced Hank. Anyways, Hank's channel, he's better known for Vlogbrothers and Crash Course and a whole bunch of stuff. I like a lot of the stuff that he does, but I found that I pretty much disagree with him almost universally on politics, just because he and I think, are coming from different perspectives. He's coming from the, at least as far as I can tell, he's coming from the right to humanity perspective, I guess. He's coming from the perspective of every human owes every other human a good life, I guess, is the best way I can describe what I'm pretty sure is his thought process. My thought process has more to do with every human should be as good as they are able to be, and if we all did that, then the world would be pretty great. But we come to a lot of the same conclusions, at least on a behavior is the thing, which is why I like him a lot, because of he and his brother John Green are the kind of people who do a lot of really active stuff to help people. And I like that. It's just I come to the conclusion that that's something we should do for different reasons. I don't think it's a responsibility. I think it's more of a... I believe it... I don't know. But anyways, this isn't about me. This is about Adblock. And the thing about this subject is you really don't see a lot of... You pretty much see one perspective of this. Everybody who is able to talk about it, everybody who is able to be listened to about it, everybody who can be heard anyways, is pretty much against it. The idea of Adblock, the idea of blockers. Most cases but I think that's not even a huge problem. I mean, it's always a problem when it becomes very difficult to hear both sides of an argument, but it's not actually impossible. The thing I've noticed is what you really have to do is just go to the more reasonable videos and then look at their comment sections, because that's the point when you get legitimately, well, at least you get, the comment sections tend to be at least mostly people who are for Adblock for different reasons. But I think that the reason I like that video, the Adblock video with Hank's channel, with Hank Green, is that he doesn't just say like, oh, this is morally wrong, you shouldn't be doing this. Because that always seemed like it seemed like I almost want to call it the church argument, but churches don't seem to do this very much anymore. But like the the grandmother argument. I'll call it that, or the grandparent argument. It's the family looking at you and frowning when they see that a guy started wearing pink shirts. It's the kind of thing where they're trying to it's the you shouldn't do this thing because everybody agrees that you shouldn't do this thing, which is fine when it comes to basic laws like don't kill people and don't steal from people, rock and coming. But it doesn't work so well when it's a vague moral issue. It doesn't work when it's the kind of thing where you could argue that it's not even a perspective thing. It's literally just that we don't like that you can do this, is what they're saying. But they're packaging it as it is wrong that you do this, not what it really is, which is we don't like that you do it. But the reason I like the Hank Green thing is because although I think he agrees with those people in that that he doesn't like it that people do it, and he says that, his arguments are a lot more logical. His argument, as far as I could tell, comes down to the statistics I know a lot of people have is it's like 5 to 7% of people who use ad blockers, and his argument was that if it ever got to like 20%, if it ever got to 20% or more, that what would happen is, well, first of all, big companies like Google and YouTube, but Google owns YouTube, but still there's a YouTube company, they just work through Google. Anyways, but the big companies, the big internet companies, would firstly have to fire 20% of their staff and ramp down 20% of the things they were doing and make the things which they don't get rid of 20% worse. But then they would also, in his view, if it got to 20%, what they'd end up doing is they would actively be working on preventing ad blockers. There'd be an active push. They'd on top of the fact that they'd fire 20% of their staff, they'd probably devote another 10% to making either pushing for legislation to make ad block illegal, or more likely simply covering the internet in anti-ad blocker programs, doing things like shoving it through Chrome and all the other browsers. But my problem with this is that the main issues people seem to have with it is that they can't make money anymore. That's not to say that that's a bad thing. Money runs our society, unfortunately. And that's basically our global society, I mean. Well, I think that there are still some societies which aren't directly money-based, but money basically runs the human race at this point. So individuals need it. I understand how people who make videos full time absolutely have to have it. I have my issues with people who make videos full time. It's the sort of thing where if you do it all the time, it doesn't work as well. I get that it works sometimes, like how you get professional comedians who make jokes for a living. But the thing is, that's still pre-planned jokes. That's still they find what's funny and then they retell it 100 times, just depending on the audience, with a little bit of getting rid of old jokes and a little bit of getting new jokes, so that like every 10 years or something they get new content. Completely. I mean, nothing from 10 years ago is still there 10 years later, kind of thing. But in fact, it's probably like 8 of them. But the thing is, the main argument seems to be for keeping it, aside from Hank Green's whole thing of there's going to be an active push to prevent it. Still, I think at that point, all you're going to get is the people who you're going to get a major decrease. 1 in 10 will probably remain, of people who use ad blockers, but all you're going to get is people are going to get all pissed off that that the big guys or the man is trying to prevent them, is trying to force them to do things. It's a perspective I understand. Honestly, it's kind of like, oh, here's an example. Here's a real life example. The recent United States had a healthcare thing, Obamacare, I think. Yeah, I can't remember if that was one of the Obamacare things. Anyways, a recent healthcare thing I remember hearing a lot about in the news a little while ago, at least the English-speaking news, which I'm kind of locked into. But it was the whole thing how apparently you had to get healthcare, or if you didn't, you would be charged a whole bunch of money. And I remember a lot of people were saying like, nope, I'm just not going to get it, just because, or if I have it, I'm going to cancel it. I know that there were some people who were saying like, it's literally cheaper for me not to have it. But I remember seeing that there was a whole bunch of people who were saying just like, nope, I'm not going to have it. They're forcing me to do this thing. I refuse. And I know that there's going to be a certain proportion of people who do that, even perhaps people who didn't use ad blockers before. And what you're going to get is you're going to get some sort of new browser or something like that, which is completely run on Adblock and doesn't even I think that Adblock as an extension, I can understand how it would be seen by certain websites. And I know that there are certain programs now which refuse ad blocker software, so it says stuff like, oh, you're using an ad blocker, you can't use this website. Well, the thing is, I can understand that, but I think that honestly, if there was a major push to stop ad blockers, all you'd get would be someone makes an ad blocker browser, and then the website doesn't even know that you're blocking it. It's going to do something like absolutely prevent the website from seeing what the user sees. So they'll send whatever information, and ad blocker works by doing stuff like it just never downloads the content for the ads. So all you're going to get is some sort of ad blocker program or browser which just downloads the thing and then doesn't show it. So you'd lose the speed component, but you'd keep the annoyance component. You wouldn't have to deal with the annoyance component. So anyways, what it comes down to is if people were forced to go without it, you'd just get people doing an alternative solution. But I think that the problem is people keep saying, my main issue, and the thing which sparked me to create this video, is that people keep coming from the perspective of, if everybody used ad blocker, the internet wouldn't exist. Content would never be made. And I guess that struck a chord with me with my channel, because I want to point out, I'm not getting any views on this at this point. I mean, well, maybe the idea is that the whole constant uploads thing and the decent audio quality will, by the time this video comes out, I'll be getting at least a couple of views. But I'm not actively getting views at the time of this recording. And I'm still making content. So I just want to point out that it's not, things will be made. And I know that there are a lot of channels which take a third-party route, which is, I know Philip DeFranco with his news show. I remember hearing how that whole YouTube monetization thing kept, well, he's been having a lot of trouble with it. And what ended up happening is that, I guess because he's news and they don't like news shows, or they don't like certain news shows on YouTube for advertisers, he basically just, none of his videos ever get monetized, so he just doesn't make any money directly through YouTube. But what he does get is he gets individual companies to directly sponsor each video, so he makes money on his videos again. He pays the cost to make them, and then which is like he has someone editing, he has someone researching, and he has someone and then he has himself. He has all the equipment. I think he has a staff of like 20 people, although they're doing some other stuff too on that team. I know that they're trying to do other news stuff, like other people than just his show. But anyways, his method was just take a third-party route, and I don't see any reason Adblock would stop that. Like, you can skip ahead in the video, but like, and honestly, that's the one nice thing I've really liked about method. He does it. I would honestly use the products that he pushes through, because I can tell, like, oh, this company supports this user. They see that people like him. They watched a little bit of his content and said, you know what? He's someone we should support. We should support him. And because of that, that's a good enough recommendation for me personally to say, yeah, I'll watch his stuff. I'll buy that thing. If I'll use Dollar Shave Club if I have to get a shaver. Although I just have a tool that does that. But you know, I'll use the products which support this creator, which I like. So I don't see why people keep saying that content would go away. Honestly, I think that even if it were completely impossible to have full-time YouTubers, which I don't think it would, I certainly think there would be less of them, but the few who would be left would basically be forced into creating high-quality products. You know, you wouldn't be able to get clickbait. You might get some advertisers willing to support clickbait channels, but not many. Is the thing. The only reason they exist at this point is because they create a lot of people clicking on the videos and looking at the default ads. But if everybody used Adblock and Google didn't prevent it, or at least attempt to, what you'd end up getting is, to me, it seems like you just get a better internet, is the thing. You wouldn't get the thing is, in my view, and I know a lot of other people's view, and in provable fact, the market will create whatever people want. If there's a desire for it, if there's a want for it, if there's a need for it, the market will find it and create it and support it. You know, if there was suddenly a market strong enough for moon rocks, just rocks, they're just normal rocks, but they were on the moon and we want them on Earth. If that were a thing, and to be fair, it would be a few $1 million to start with, but if that were a thing and people wanted moon rocks and they were willing to, like, if millions of people wanted moon rocks, in 6 months, there would be a constant stream of moon rocks getting sold. So that's the thing. If the market wants it, it will happen. And that's the ideal that I don't see it. Maybe these people don't see it. I think that if everybody used Adblock, we'd get the bigger, more supportable, more business-friendly channels. Nothing would happen. You'd get the Philip DeFrancos, you'd get the John and Hank Greens, and nothing would happen to them because they're already crowdfunded. Crowdfunded, or businesses support them because they see that what they're doing is liked by people, and if they're willing to, companies can see, like, okay, if these guys are willing to support me or to advertise my business, then there is a huge group of people who trust them and will use my product if they are able. That is the power of these things. But if you just shove through ads on any video, you don't get any trust. It's just, sure, you get the subliminal stuff, but I know that there's a certain proportion of the population which just responds awfully to that. I think I even might be one of them, not completely, but you know, it's the kind of thing where if I'm watching a show I like, if I'm watching the Game of Thrones or whatever, and suddenly an ad comes and disrupts me, like I do most of my stuff through the internet, but I can, mainly because, TV doesn't, whatever. TV I consider to be pretty much less convenient and at lower quality. But if I was watching some, yeah, if I'm watching the Game of Thrones still, we'll say, but I'm doing it through Netflix, and suddenly Netflix pops in an ad right there and says like, oh, I've got to watch this ad, 4 minutes of ads or something, because you know the episodes are like 45 minutes long, so you know it's usually like a tenth or something of the of each program on TV is ads. But it's like 30 minutes and then like 20 of it is, so it's a lot more than that. Anyways, but we'll say I'm watching the Game of Thrones on Netflix and suddenly 4 minutes of ads come up. It's some annoying ad. It's like bright colors and stuff, flashing lights, and I'm like sitting in my dark room, like getting all ready all ready to see the amazing world that George R.R. Martin created, which is not a bright one. At that point, whatever product that is, could be the best product in the world, but I guarantee is getting categorized in my mind as bad things that I should tell people are awful products, and I should actively try to make not get bought. Of course, sometimes it works. If it were actually possible or feasible to have ads, like be able to tell what the color scheme of the web page is around them and have the ads play to that. So if I got, if that same ad, the same product at least, for that same Game of Thrones thing, but it was dark, it had it maybe even had a Game of Thrones-esque feel to the product, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like, yeah, okay, you're working for my money. You're not kicking me out of the mood. It's annoying, but it's the level of annoying where I understand your product and I get that it's the hustle. Everyone has to deal with it. Everyone's got a job. So I could understand it. And at that point, I'm going to watch the ad and see if it's a product I can use. But that's not what ads are. All right. I guess this video's gone long enough. I just wanted to summarize that pretty much a lot of content would get created whether or not people watch it or not, like mine. A lot of it is just because people want to make the content. A lot more is created because not only just because people like the content, but at least because you get the people with like 20,000 subscribers who aren't going to get that much money on the videos they make. But it's the fact that they have their little subscriber bases. They have little communities. Well, not that little, 20,000, but they have these communities around them. They're hardcore watchers who are willing to support them, who are willing to contribute to them, who are willing to comment all the time on a lot of their videos, who, if they ask a question in a video, will go to the comments and answer it as best they can, or at least will thumbs up or thumbs down a comment which answered it as close to their answer as possible. So you get those people who I think would have no problems, because I don't think it's really the money for them. Not to say that the money didn't help. If I was suddenly if I got $200 from this channel, the first thing I would do with it is go get something like a Bluetooth microphone so I could just point my camera somewhere and then walk around. But I don't think that for the majority of those kind of channels, the money is anything other than a side benefit. It's about the communities, and it's about the fact that they like making the videos. So I think those channels, which I really think are the highest quality videos, there are some channels which just authentically have the kind of quality that channels with like 20 to 50,000 subscribers have, and the authenticity of that, but are also in the millions, but not many, is the thing. Sometimes, you get the certain people. One, for instance, that I like is GCP Gray. His videos don't come out that often, but they're very popular and very informative when they do. And he's kept the 20,000 subscribers feel to his videos, and actually maintained a quite high quality product. In fact, the fact that his videos make more money now, I think, has allowed him to unfortunately upload them even less frequently. But by the nature of it, this allows him to create a much better researched and much higher quality product, which I think is great. But so what you're going to get the GCP Grays, you're going to get the 20,000 subscriber people. You're going to get the people like Philip DeFranco, who have authentic quality product, are trusted by their subscribers, so the non-clickbaity kind of people, they're just going to find a way around it. But there are certain people who won't survive, and the industry will certainly thin out, which is, I think, a good thing. You're not going to get the people who do it as a job. You're going to get the people who do it because they love it. There will be less money in the industry. Okay, actually, no, I don't even think that. There will be the same amount of money in the industry, but it will show itself in different ways. So what you'll get is if there'll be less people to watch, so the few people who are left will be forced to create that much higher quality of a product, and their support bases will be that much larger. I am not someone, in case you couldn't tell by this video, I'm a quality over quantity kind of person. Not to say that no quantity is a great idea. I think that there should be some channels like GCP Grey who release every month or 2 months or something like that. But when they do release, it's just an amazing quality product. But I don't think that that should be every channel. Hence, my channel isn't like that. My channel is, when I think of a thing and I'm willing to talk about it for more than 10 minutes at a time, I make the video. I guess conclusions, since that's a thing I'm apparently doing on my videos now. I don't think the quality of YouTube would go down even if 100% of people used Adblock. Fact is, I think the quality would go up, although the quantity would go down. I think that the big channels would find a way anyways. They would find a way around it. The little channels would lose money. At least they'd lose some of their money. They too would get advertisers willing to, they'd get the Dollar Shave Club people willing to support their little channel. By little, again, I mean 20,000. But little by comparison to like the 50 million kinds. So they'd still get some money, but it would be decreased, and it would have to be because they like making it, which is still something. If they have 20,000, they have another job, is the thing. They just make it because they like making it. And you would also get the channels like mine, which make it entirely just because they want to make the videos. Channels like mine to channels with like 5,000, where it's the kind of thing where channels like this get people watching, they get people commenting sometimes, but it really just boils down to, I want to make a video, so I made a video. So I don't think the quality would go down. And I think people are really freaking out. I, as a rule, pretty much support ad blockers. I don't actually think that 100% of people will ever use them. Even if there's some massive awareness campaign, I know that there's a lot of ad block users who think that, like, oh, nobody knows about ad block. Nobody knows about ad block. If everybody knew, at least 90% of people would use it. And I think that if everybody knew exactly what it was and what it could do, a lot more people would use it. But I can't honestly figure out why people don't use it, because I don't think the world is made up of people. I know the main excuse is that, like, people think, like, the people who are against it keep saying, like, oh, it's because they don't think it's right. I don't think the human race works like that. I don't think people make decisions because they think doing that or not doing that would be wrong. I think they do it because they don't think they could get away with it. Because they don't think they should do it, but not because, whatever. I think that this is the kind of thing where if everybody knew what it was, more people would use it, but not everybody. So I think there's got to be some reason why so many people don't use it, and it's not because humans are good people. I think it's got to be some sort of thing I'm not seeing, some sort of argument I don't know. But who knows? Maybe if I know it, I'll make a second ad block video. For now, I just wanted to get my thoughts out on this. This is the news, so enjoy the generalized outro.